joining us, and welcome to the virtual consultation on TPOS Phase 2. I am Mr. Wilmon Nelote, your host for the webinar. This is the second day of the webinar on Pay As You Earn, PAYE. We request that you keep your mic and camera muted so that there is minimal interference in the sound and slides that you will be receiving. And the agenda for today is on your screens. The introduction is being done by me. My colleague, Mr. Sonal Dutt, will be doing the presentation and demonstration, followed by the question and answer session. Again, kindly requesting if you could please mute your audio button on the left of the screen. You can see it on your screen over the left hand side, and the video button right next to it as it appears on your screen. So without further ado, I will hand you over to Mr. Sonal Dutt for the presentation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Willie, and good morning to all the participants that have joined in. So today is day 2 of the PAYE webinar session that we will be having. It's basically a continuation of yesterday's webinar. So the objective for this webinar is to give an overview of the PAYE lodgement process, highlight some major changes in the process, and provide a demo of the live system. Just a recap on what we did yesterday. So yesterday we focused on the social responsibility tax, that is SRT ring fencing its application, how taxpayers or employers will be able to apply for SRT ring fencing process in TPOS, and we also viewed the application confirmation letter. After the taxpayers submit the application, what kind of correspondence they will receive, and also we had shown a confirmation or approval letter. We also looked at special tax rate application yesterday. Special tax rate application is basically where an employee applies for special tax rate on TPOS. So we went through the process of applying, and the confirmation that comes up, and also the approval letter that is sent to the employee after it has been processed by FRCS. Going further, today we will be looking at what changes to expect in PAYE return process. So our main focus of the presentation today is lodging of PAYE return online, how the taxpayers or employers will be able to lodge or submit PAYE returns online. We'll look at some of the changes that will be coming on board. Also, we'll do a demo. We'll try and lodge a nil return, a payable return, and we'll also amend one of the returns that we have submitted. We'll also talk on withholding tax statement. So this is something that the employees will be able to see in future. Withholding tax statement is basically whatever taxes have been deducted by your employer, how employees can go online and see. And the other thing that we'll be looking at how the employees will be able to submit the discrepancy and missing claim notification to FRCS. Just a kind reminder, if you are not able to hear me clearly, or I'm going very fast, just send in your comments. we are looking at the comments at the same time, we'll try and improve on the sound if it's or my presentation if I'm going very fast. Going back to the obligations that we saw yesterday, we said the employer has to register and submit SRT ring fencing application if applicable, withhold the PAYE taxes, and lodge the PAYE return. An employee has to sign up, apply for special tax rate if they have two employment, and they can also check the withholding tax statement. So for now, for the presentation now, we are going to focus on the lodgement of PAYE return. But first, before we proceed, I just wanted to highlight some of the changes. Some of the changes that we expect in PAYE. The first thing that we wanted to focus on is the filing bifurcations, consolidated or confidential and non-confidential filing options. As we have mentioned yesterday, that when a taxpayer registers for PY, that it can be done through TIN registration or through change of circumstance later after they have registered for TIN, they will be having options. They can a PY return in as a that will be can be as confidential or non-confidential. Okay, so when an employer chooses consolidated filing option, they will be submitting a single file for end of the each period. So consolidated basically is all the employees, the PY return, the PY, the wages records and the PY details are lumped into one file. And if you say confidential and non-confidential, so sometimes some companies they choose to have two payroll options. One payroll or in one payroll record, they would choose to have their management staff or some confidential employee records, which they do not want to share with the normal employees. And so in that option, the employers can choose to file PY return in confidential and non-confidential. So basically, confidential filing options will have all the management records or all the employees that are in confidential filing, and non-confidential will have all the other normal employees. The wages record will include all the normal employees. So moving on, some of the other changes, if you compare to as is PY, what is going in B process, right? In the as is, we are having a manual conditions for PY. To be, we are going ahead. We will be giving you option to for auto calculation, so employers can wages figure and the PY rate, SR nickel rate will be calculated automatically. The as is process is currently the taxpayers or the employers email the PY returns or the EM files that is in notepad form. So that will be going is as online filing or uploading will be on the system. Other changes in the as is, we are using a notepad file. If you are currently doing your PY return, you must have seen a notepad file. It is a file that is generated after Microsoft Access notepad generator, and then that notepad has all numbers which is sometimes kind of hard to understand what those numbers indicate. So in the as is, we are choosing we are giving an option of either uploading a Excel file or a CSV file. So the employers can upload an Excel or a CSV file. A CSV file is the same as Excel. It is just that some of the information in the CSV are cannot be edited. It's basically the same thing as a Excel file. Uh, Another change is the validations. So in the as is, there are no validations. So if I enter a wrong TIN and submit a EMS return, right, you will be able to submit it. Only after we process that application, then we will be able to know that the TIN or there is an error in the TIN. In the 2B, there is online validations. So even online, if I enter a wrong TIN, the system will tell me that this TIN is not correct, or you'll be able to see if the TIN entered is correct or incorrect. So that validations with date of birth to minimize the risk of employers entering wrong TIN in the system. In the as is, files are sent back to employers if there are error in the file. But in the 2B, this will not happen, because if there is an error in the file, you will not be able to even submit the file. So it will ensure that all the errors are rectified before the files are submitted. And then, like currently in the as is, there is no tracking of files. If you email a file, we receive it, we'll upload it. But sometimes the notifications, or you don't know, you are not aware if your file has been successfully uploaded or not. Okay, so in the 2B, you will get filing confirmation. The filing confirmation is very similar to what we saw yesterday after we submitted a SRT ring fencing or a special tax rate application. So it will confirm that your PAYE return has been successfully submitted, and it will have a confirmation number. And with that confirmation number, you can actually call FRCS and ask for the status of your return at any point in time. The other changes that we can expect is you can see your filing obligations when they are due. Sometimes, like if we are in a busy period and we have a lot of filings to do, the employers sometimes forget that they have to lodge a PY return. So what happens in the 2B? There will be reminders sent to the employers or the person accountable for lodging the PY return or any return for in NTs. So they will be getting reminders that this file is due in 3 days, please submit, or this file is due in 2 days. So there will be a filing reminders going on, and you will be able to see on the system when your files are due. You can also make online payment. Okay, there is also add notes functionality. Add notes I've shown you yesterday as well. In any of the returns request that you are submitting to FRCS, you can add a note, or you can just type in whatever request you are typing in, or whatever information that you want to provide to the person who will be assessing the return or who will be processing the return. You can just communicate with them through the add notes functionality. There's also save option. So if I'm doing a return and I'm stuck in the middle and I have to go somewhere, I can just simply save that return and come back the next day or next hour and continue from wherever I have saved. The other thing I've also mentioned is withholding tax statement. So the employees will be able to view the withholding tax statement online. So if an employer deducts X amount of PY from your pay, and then the following month when it's remitted, the employees will be able to see actually how much they deducted and how much they have declared to FRCS. And also, if you feel there is some discrepancy, that whatever the employer has not fully declared, you can notify through discrepancy or missing claims to FRCS. So I hope that changes I've I am able to explain clearly to whatever the changes are, and also the confidential and non-confidential filing options. If you have any questions regarding this, you can will send in the questions, and after the session, we'll answer the questions regarding them. Now, going ahead, I'll now demo the system. Uh, I'll be lodging a nil return and a payable return, and I'll amend the PY return. So, as we know, this for lodgement of PY return, it's done through the employer. So, registered employers be able to file PY. So, I'll now log into one of the employer TINs or employer credentials that we have. So, logging in, just a reminder again that the TINs that we are using are from our testing environment. The logins that we will be using for this demo are not real data, so we're not impacting any of the taxpayers' position that is currently live. So these are all tests that we'll be using. So let's log into one of the employer teams. Okay, so once logged in, as usual, we will see all the tiles that are available. I have briefly explained on all the tiles yesterday. So for the filing now, we'll go to filing obligation. So we'll click on filing obligations, select the return that we are going to lodge. So there's a drop down or there are certain fields available for the taxpayers. They can sort the filing obligation screen by the tax type they are registered for. So they'll simply select the tax return, and under this option they will see all the tax types that this taxpayer is registered for. So currently the login that I'm using, this taxpayer is registered for FBT and PAYE. So we'll choose PAYE, and over here we'll have all the list of PAYE returns that are due to the taxpayer. Uh, just a just a note, you will be able to see your obligations as and when they fall due. So you will not be able to see any future obligations in the filing obligation screen. So you can see that August 2020 is the last filing obligation that I'm seeing. I'm not seeing returns till December 2020 because those periods are not due yet. I'll only be able to see till August for PY because we have to enter the wages records as and when they fall due. We can also select, or there's option to filter the filing obligations by the period they are due. So you can select the last 3 months, last 6 months, last year, or any other older returns. And the other selection is you can also select the status. If it's a due return or overdue return, or if you want to view a file return, you can also view the file return from filing obligations. In processing return is basically a return which you have submitted to FRCS, and it's currently in process. FRCS is reviewing or checking the return. Under review is when you've amended a PY return and FRCS is currently reviewing that amendment. Okay, so we'll select. I, I I hope all of us in this session today are familiar with this screen because this is very similar to the lodgements, wet lodgement or FBT lodgement screen that has gone live. So it should not be an issue now to check on the status and the obligations. So we'll select PY and we'll try and file a January 2020 PY return. Okay, so the first screen that we will see is the instructions page. So this PY return is divided into 5 sections. First is the instructions page. The other one is the filing options. Then we have the payment period option or the screen, and then summary and declaration screen. So we expect the taxpayers to read and understand the instructions and declare that they have read and understood before they proceed. If you try to continue without declaring that you have read and understood the instructions above, an error message will pop up saying that please tick on the declaration checkbox. So basically you will not be able to proceed without filling in the declaration checkbox. So we'll click on declaration and continue. The next question that the system is asking this: are you lodging a nil return? So for the demo today, we said we'll be lodging a payable return and a nil return. So we'll start off with a payable return first, and then February, for the month of Feb, we'll try and lodge a nil return. So on the question that is asking is, are you lodging a nil return for this? We will say no. And the other question that comes after you select no is, please select the filing options. So there are two filing options. One is where you want the system to calculate tax liabilities for you, or you are choosing to provide your own tax figures. So in the changes I have mentioned that the change will be coming in is auto calculation. So basically, if employers are choosing that they would like the system to calculate the tax figures, the system will calculate your tax based on the information that is entered. So the employers will need to enter the gross amount, the gross pay paid to the employee, and the year to date that is been paid to the employee in order for the system to calculate the PAYE tax correctly. The other option is I will provide my tax liabilities by myself. This is basically if employers are having engaging payroll vendors. So the payroll software basically calculates the PAYE tax. So in that option, basically what the taxpayer has to do is download the copy of the payroll, the return, the EMS file that is generated by the payroll software, and upload that Excel or the file in the system. Currently, the payroll softwares are generating notepad files. So after we go live, the notepad files will be changed to Excel or a CSV file. So if you're having a payroll software vendor, you can just download or generate that PAYE Excel template and upload in the system. Okay, so we'll just proceed with the option where it says I would like the system to calculate the tax liabilities for me, and click on next. Okay, the next screen that will be displayed is the payments period. Basically on this screen is where you have to enter all the details or the wages record of the employees for the particular period that you are lodging. Okay, on the screen we are able to see there's a weekly tab, a fortnightly, monthly, or bi-monthly. So these are the payment options that the employers are in options in which the employers are paying their employees. So an employer can pay the employees on a weekly basis, on a fortnightly basis, monthly or bi-monthly basis. So if you are choosing weekly, then you have to click on payment period and enter the information of all the employees that you're paying on a weekly basis. Okay. Uh, and if the employee is choosing fortnightly, they have to select on fortnightly and then click on add payment period. When they click on add payment period, another pop-up screen will appear. In this, they have to enter the details of the employees that were engaged or that worked during that fortnight. So in the fortnight, in a month, they have to enter this records twice. Similarly, if you are entering for a monthly or weekly, if your option is weekly payment, so for the PY return, you have to enter for all the weeks. Also on the pop-up screen, you can see there's a start date, end date. So this is basically the start date of the period for which you're lodging your PY return, the end date and the payment date. And also there is number of payment period for that month. So this varies. So if I'm choosing fortnightly, in a year I can have 26 or 27 pay periods depending on the week ending. So different employers have different week endings, and sometimes there is an extra payment that comes in during the year. So it will be either 26 or 27. And also you can choose the payment number. So payment number for say fortnightly is 1 to 26 if I'm using 26 payment period. So here the employers are supposed to enter the wages records for each employee. So when you click on add employee, the wages records are, or the pop-up screen asking for the employer to enter the details of employees are displayed. Alternatively, an employer can also choose to import an Excel file. Okay, as I said, if you have a payroll vendor, or if you can update an Excel for, for the system to pre-populate, or you can upload an Excel file using the import option. So if you have already done, or if the payroll software is generating the Excel file, then you do not need to enter all the information in the add employee details. System will automatically pre-populate all the details once you upload the Excel file. It is very similar to VAT or FBT upload Excel option. So currently those two are live. So in that option, you can choose to type in the employee or the VAT details, or you can just simply upload an Excel file. Okay. The other options that we have is monthly and bi-monthly. So these are payment options. The screens are very similar. All the four options that you choose. The only difference that comes up is your pay for monthly and bi-monthly. For monthly is 12 payments. So if you're paying your employer for on a monthly basis, then they will be making only 12 payments in a year. And the same thing is with bi-monthly. The payment period over here is up to 24. So for the demo today, we'll just try and lodge a monthly return. Just that we are able to cover all the our presentation today. We'll just do a monthly return. So we'll select monthly and click on add payment period. When we click on that, so this is a January 2020 return lodging. So the start date will be 1st of January and the end date will be 31st January 2020. The payment date is we can just put in the time when we made the payment to the employee. So I'll just put 31/01/2020. Okay. Now there, I've already mentioned that there are validations on the online payment. So for example, if I choose a wrong date, say I put 2019 or 2021, you can see that there is an error. There is a red tab, or this field is now underlined with the red tab. It is saying that it basically means that this field entered is incorrect. So the start date and the date for the end date should be matching. Also, if I just try and confirm without filling in all the details, a system will give me a message that please fill in all the mandatory details. Right? So I have not entered the employee detail and I have not selected the payment period. So that's why there is an error coming up asking me to fill all the mandatory details. So we'll select the payment period. Now, just to keep in mind, if you want the correct PAYE calculations to be displayed or calculated, you need to enter the correct payment period or the payment number. For the if you are lodging a January return and you are paying monthly to your employees, your payment number for January will be 01. Similarly, if you're lodging for Feb and you are you're paying your employees on a monthly basis, your payment number will be 02. So for now, if it's January 10, we'll just select 1. Okay. So as I've already mentioned, the other options on this screen as to how you can enter the employee records is you can simply type in the TIN, the date of birth, the tax codes, or you can import an Excel file. Now there's a standard Excel file that we will be using that we'll be giving out to employers. So it will have standard fields that the employers will need to fill in, and when you fill in this Excel or information, you can only then upload this Excel file. Now, just to show where we can download the Excel file, it's just option just beside import. There's a field export, or there's also a download template. So if you have already filled in these details, you can choose export as an option. And if you're trying to upload or import or fill in a blank, retrieve a blank Excel file, you will click on download template. Now when you click on download template, a blank Excel file will be saved on your PC. So I've clicked on download. As you can see, there is a Excel that was saved. The Excel file, I'll just put it out. It's this Excel file that will be saved to your PC. This Excel basically has the same fields as the online on-screen filing. You will need to enter the TIN, date of birth, tax code, residency, start date, and end date of the employment for each employee that you are trying to fill in. Okay. So if employers are able to or if you fill in all these Excel templates, you will have something like this. So I've just pre-populated or pre-filled this Excel for the demo today. So I'm saying the employer that I'm lodging, or the employer that is lodging, he has got 4 employees. So I've entered the TIN of all the 4 employees, the date of birth, tax code, the option. There's a drop down on this on the cell. So you can see you can select as a P. P means primary, or S, which indicates secondary. So I have discussed about primary and secondary employment in yesterday's session. And if employer is choosing secondary, they can also, if they want, they can apply for special tax rate. So when they give this special tax rate to the certificate to the employee is supposed to deduct at that particular rate. So if you choose S, the system will also deduct your PAYE on the approved special tax rate. The other option that the employers has is to choose residency status. So in the residency status, you can have a resident or a non-resident. The employee, basically, if you have an expatriate working for you, you will choose N. N indicates a non-resident, and if you're choosing R, R means a resident employee. Some queries that we have received regarding VAT and FBT. The drop downs are very similar. So what happens sometimes the taxpayers, they just choose this the tooltip. They try and select on this. You don't have to. These are just details or explanation or tips on that Excel, on that field, on the cell. Sorry. So if you notice, there's a drop down just beside that cell. So you need to select that drop down, click on the drop down, and select P or S. If you just try and select from the tooltip over here, you will not be able to make a selection. So please make sure that you are clicking on the drop down and then making a selection. You will not be able to select if you are just using this option on the detail section. Okay. Now also to note, similar to VAT and FBT, the format of the date, there is a certain format that you have to type in your dates and the figures. So date has to be in this format, and in the figures you cannot, when you enter the figures, you should not be using a dollar sign or a comma in the middle. We will be releasing, or after we go live, we will be giving you how to use Excel template, very similar to FBT and VAT that we have online. So you can always go and read on that, the instructions on how to use Excel template for PAYE as well. The other options that the employer has to fill if you're choosing an Excel to upload are the year to date. So as I've mentioned, if you are using the option that I want the system to calculate the tax figures for me, it is important that you provide the year to date figures. Okay, because if you just provide a normal pay, the value of normal pay, we might not be able to determine the correct PAYE tax or correct SRT or EKL tax. So it's important that you provide the year to dates. Year to dates will also have the lump sum payments that you did, one-off payment, and year to date income tax, year to date SRT, the normal pay, director's remuneration, redundancy payment. So this redundancy, if you see redundancy payment number, it is the number that we used or that was provided to us yesterday, the approval number, when we did the redundancy and SRT ring fencing application. For that particular employee, and same thing for lump sum, there will be approval number provided when you do SRT ring fencing. You need to provide the FNPF deduction amount, and there is option gross up employee. This is the last field. So basically, if you're selecting the tooltip on the screen says select whether or not employee is a gross up employee. If you say yes, it means this employee is a gross up employee, and if you say no, if you select N, it means this employee is not a gross up employee. So what gross up employee basically means is sometimes if you hire somebody, or some employers, if they hire an employee, it depends on the contract how they would be paid. So some employees are paid, like some employers, they, as part of their contract package, they say that the PAYE taxes, the P1 SRT and EKL taxes will be paid by the employer on their behalf. So which means that PYU taxes will not be deducted from the salary. So if I'm saying that my contract value is say 120,000, so and PY, the employer says that I will be paying you 120,000, expecting to receive that figure. If I'm saying I'm a gross up employee, there will not be any tax deductions from my pay. So any tax deductions that are happening for that 120,000 tax or the wages that I'm receiving, the employer has to pay taxes for me. Okay, and if you're saying the employee is not a gross up employee, it is that the taxes will be deducted from your pay. So in that same example, if I'm saying I'm earning 120,000 and my employer is saying in my, as per my terms of contract, I'm not a gross up employee, so they will I will be paying taxes. So when I get my wages, uh, I will get a figure less than 120 because taxes will be deducted from my payment. Okay, uh, just to repeat or just to go over the fields in the Excel, these fields are same as the screens on the pop-up, the fields, the pop-up screen. You have your TIN, your date of birth, tax code. You can select PNS or the residency status. You have to fill the employment start date, the year to date. As I've already advised, the year to date is important for us to determine the right PY amount for that particular employee. And then you enter the normal PY that was paid for that month or for that period. It can be weekly, fortnightly, monthly, or bi-monthly, and the gross, the other payments that are made. Yesterday we had a question regarding bonus. So somebody asked that will bonus be included in SRT ring fencing? So we had mentioned that there is a separate field for bonus and overtime. So it's separate from your normal pay. There is a bonus field in this PY return. The other fields are your redundancy approval number. Just repeating, this approval number is same as the approval when you apply for SR ring fencing. There's an approval number provided. So this is the same approval number. And then you have to enter your FNPF deduction amount and select if you are a gross up employee or not. Okay, so once we have filled in this pre-populated this Excel. We'll try and upload this Excel and see how the system reacts to the uploading of documents. So we'll click on import. We'll select the file that we have to upload. So we'll select January 2020 file that I as an employer have pre-populated, and then click on OK. Now you can see all the details are displayed. So the details or the information that I had to enter through an employee is now pre-populated from the Excel that I have already or tried to upload. Now, once you have uploaded and you feel that there is a mistake or there is an error that I have done or I have made in this uploading, you can always change it from the screen over here. So if you scroll to the right, there is an option of edit. And also there's an option for delete. Okay, so if you click on edit, the details that were entered in Excel will now appear as this, in similar to the pop-up screen where you have to type in. So TIN will be displayed and you can change the figures. One of the things that I mentioned in beginning of my presentation is the validations. So I've shown you a few validations. The other validation is the system is actually checking the TIN or validating the TIN with date of birth. Okay, so previously we are not asking for date of birth in the EMS returns. So, and because of that, we had some errors or some files that were sent in which had employees with wrong TINs. So just to minimize that, there's a validation. The system will check the employee TIN with the date of birth. If those two are correct, then only you'll be able to proceed. So for the information that I entered, the date of birth was correct. Suppose if I change the date of birth to this employee was born in 1990, I'm just changing it to 1991. The system will give me an error message. It will say that the employee date of birth is incorrect for this particular TIN. So it ensures that whatever information you are providing for this particular return is correct. The TIN that you are using for lodging this return is correct. So if it's a wrong TIN or if you entered a wrong date of birth, there will be a pop-up message saying this information is incorrect. So I'll change the date of birth again to the correct one and the error message will disappear. Also, you can change any other details regarding this employee on this screen as well. And if you are satisfied with the changes, you can just click on confirm. Now the option that we have chosen is I want the system to calculate the text figures for me. Now the text figures are also on the far right hand corner of the screen. You have to scroll this side and you'll be able to see. So you can see the taxes are not yet calculated. Once I click on confirm on this button over here, this is the time when the PAYE taxes for the employees will be calculated. Okay. So now I'll just click on confirm. So there'll be a pop-up message or a small message on the screen saying this file, the uploading was successful for this period. Now if you want to go back and see, or still if you have not yet submitted your PAYE return and you want to go back and check or change any of the information in that return, you can still go ahead and change it, because we have not yet submitted this return. This is still in progress. If I want, I can just save it. So it will, the message will say that your file is safe. I can just choose to log out, right? I can just log out, come back the next day or the next hour, and continue with the lodgement. So when I want to continue, I'll just click on forms in progress, and the return that I was uploading while back, I'll be able to see it, and you can just click on continue. So if you click on continue, you will be directed to the page where you last stopped. So the payment is screen. So we'll just select the monthly file where we last stopped. Now if I want to make changes to this file, remember I have not yet submitted the file. It's still it's still with me as an employer. I'm still holding on to this file. I've not yet submitted, so I can make any changes for now before I submit. Okay, so suppose if I want to make some changes, so I'll click on the edit button. There's an edit button on that in the corner over here, so I'll click on edit, and then the same screen or the payment period screen will appear. Okay, so you will be able to change the information over here. Now just linking it to the yesterday's webinar session. Yesterday we had a special tax rate and a SRT ring fencing application. So if you remember, for the first employee that we uploaded, I said after for SRT special tax rate application, we had done application for one of the employees, and there's a message, or there was a special tax rate that was supposed to be provided. Now if you check for that employee was given a special tax rate of 13.5%. So yesterday when we applied for special tax rate for one of the employees, he was approved with a rate of 13.5%. So this is the same employee, the first employee who was given that rate. This is the TIN, and the tax calculated on that $1,000, because he's saying that he's a secondary employment. He's in secondary employment. So this employer that we are filing is his secondary employer. So he has to come and provide us with that tax rate, 13.5% tax rate, and the system will calculate his taxes accordingly. So tax on, he was paid normal pay of $1,000. The tax that's calculated is $135. So this is on the 13.5% special tax rate that was provided to him. Now the other applications that we did yesterday was SRT ring fencing and for redundancy and lump sum. So the two employees that we had that were in that category was the second team. So this is the SRT ring fencing letter that comes up after the approval is done. So this is the TIN of the employee who was approved redundancy payment, and the exemption amount is 15,000. Now if you enter that details, this is the same TIN that we have entered. Now if you edit and you enter the redundancy amount, redundancy approval figure. As per this letter, it says please use this approval number. So we'll use this approval number to to demo as to how this will link up to the SRT ring fencing application on the PAYE return lodgement. So I'll use this approval number and go to that employee and type in the redundancy approval number. So when I type in the redundancy approval number, this field is now editable. Before, you cannot enter any figure in this field, but after I fill in the redundancy approval number, this field is editable. Now I can enter the figure, or I can enter the redundancy payment that I made to this employee. Okay, just a note, you cannot use any redundancy amount, or you can just not enter any amount, any number in this field. Say if I just enter any number, the system will validate backend. It will say please enter the correct approval number. Okay, so since this employee was already approved with a redundancy payment and that approval number was provided to the employer, he can only enter that approval number for that employee. You cannot use any other number. And if you use any other number, there will be an error message saying this number is incorrect. Even if I miss a digit in this approval number and try and proceed, system will give me the same error message that this approval number is incorrect. Okay, so when you put in the correct number, then only the redundancy field is editable. Same thing is for lump sum and one of payments. So in the demo yesterday, we had shown that if you're using SRT ring fencing, if you're applying for SRT ring fencing, you can select redundancy payment, lump sum payment, or other one of payments. So this is the place, if you get approvals, these are the three fields where you'll be entering your approval numbers. So for this employee, we had applied for redundancy, and this was the payment amount. So once we have entered all the details, we'll just click on confirm. Now, just to get the calculation correct, or just to verify with the calculation, we'll have to click on confirm. After you click on confirm, then only your income tax, SRT and ECAL calculations will be displayed. So we click on confirm and go back, edit and check what is the amount that the system has displayed for the redundancy amount that the exemption that the employee get received. So this is the employee, and the redundancy approval number and the redundancy payment is displayed. So since this employee was allowed exempted from redundancy, there is no other excess PY or income tax deducted on the payment. The pay was 15,000. This employee's pay was 15,000, and she got the same amount as redundancy. So the PY displayed is on PY deducted is on the 15,000 normal pay, not on the redundancy amount. The other approval or the other function that application that we did yesterday was a lump sum amount, and we said after the application is processed, the taxpayer will get a notification or a confirmation. So we have processed that application, and this is the letter that was received to the employer. So it says the name and the amount of redundancy was received. So this is the employer that received that redundancy. Sorry, that this is the employer that got the approval for lump sum. In the similar situation, in the similar scenario, in the similar manner, we'll enter the approval number. We'll click on edit and enter the approval number in this section. And when we enter the approval number, this approval field will be editable. And we cannot enter any other number apart from this approval number. Just try and copy the approval number and paste it. Okay, it seems it's invalid for this employer because the approval number that I've entered is incorrect. So we have to make sure that the correct approval number is always entered for the particular employee. Okay, so once we have entered the approval number, you will need to put in the lump sum figure. So when we click on confirm, same thing, it will show the SRT, CAL and PAYE calculation amount. Okay, so once we have entered all the details, the other thing I wanted to mention is the non-resident taxing bit. So we can see the same employer is a non-resident. So sorry, the same employee is a non-resident, and if you enter the TIN, if you make a selection of non-resident, taxes will be calculated accordingly. So non-residents are taxed at $0. So the income tax for this non-resident is 170. There's the same field for resident. So the same details are pre-populated for two employees, a resident employee and a non-resident employee. So the top one is a resident, the second one is non-resident, and they're getting the same wages. So the wages figure is 850, but you can see the system is calculating tax for the non-resident employee because non-residents are charged with the PAYE, SRT and nickel. I mean PAYE based on $0 for the employment income. And in the same scenario, a resident employee is not deducted because their PAYE is deducted on the thresholds. Okay, so if the employer has filled in all the details, they will click on confirm. Now when they click on confirm, they will be diverted back or redirected to the main screen, that is the payment period screen. So it will show a summary of the number of payment period that we had. So if you're selecting weekly, there will be 4. You have to enter the details or the weekly details 4 times. Okay, if you're selecting fortnightly, you have to enter the details twice. And monthly, because if you're paying monthly, then there's only one payment period, so the information will be just appearing once. And same thing for bi-monthly. Now going further, we'll click on next to the summary. Now the other thing that I wanted to mention is another enhancement or another change coming up is the missing information field. Okay, So sometimes one employee works for an organization and they leave employment and go to the next one. So in that case, their details are not supposed to be, the information is not uh, submitted or reported to FRCS. What was happening previously is sometimes because we had cases of wrong TINs being used, and employees, if they leave employment and go to the next employment, we employers tend to use the same TIN. Okay, so to minimize that, there's a another change is missing information, missing employees report. So basically, if your employee or if you have entered a PY lodgement for one of the employees, or you have reported for a PY for one of the employees in the previous period, and the same employee is not appearing in the current period, system will pop up or just show a message that, it will say that we have detected some of the employees who were in the previous summary are missing in the current PY summary. Please verify the reason. So sometimes it's a genuine mistake. Sometimes the employers miss out the employee records, or they have not entered this employee detail, or sometimes the employee has left employment. So if you have missed, or if the employer has missed out on recording this employee, they can simply close and enter the employee detail again. Or if this employee has left employment or has been terminated, they can just simply choose a reason for that the reason that the employee is missing employment. So the options is employment terminated, the change in confidential, non-confidential filing, there is no payment period, they have retired or passed away. So we'll just select employment terminated and confirm. Just repeating myself again, employee missing employees report basically employer that if a employee is appearing in the previous period's PY summary or PY return and not appearing in the current PY return, system will check and it will highlight that this person is missing in the current lodgement. So the employer has to select, if it's a genuine missing employee, they have to select the reason, or if it's a mistake from the employer, they can simply go back and add an employee in the current period. Okay, so once we have done this, the next screen that will be appearing is the summary page. Summary basically tells us how much wages was paid for that period, and the bifurcations in that wages: normal pay, director's remuneration, bonus overtime, how much redundancy was declared, and how much income tax, SRT, nickel is payable for that return. Okay. It will also show any penalties that are appearing on this screen and the total net tax payable for this taxpayer. This screen is very similar to the VAT, FBT, EKL returns that we have online currently. So it's a summary page that the taxpayers can just briefly review before they submit the PY return. So once they feel that the information that is correct, they've entered all the information, they will just click on next, which is the declaration screen. So as I've mentioned earlier, there will be people or accountable people lodging for PY return. The company or the employer has to nominate accountable person lodging this return. So this accountable person has to enter the TIN, and the name will be pre-populated, and they have to make a selection of the designation. Also, if the employer wants, they can upload documents or calculation if they feel that this needs to be disclosed to FRCS. So they can always choose to upload documents in the general attachment. So this is a non-mandatory field attachment for the PY return. It's a non-mandatory field. So if it's up to the employers, if they want to disclose any information or upload a copy of calculation, maybe they can choose to do so in the general upload option that is available. Now once you have filled in all the figures, you see there is no submit. Okay, as I've mentioned yesterday, you need to click on declare button and then only the submit option will come in. So when you click on submit, there will be a filing confirmation, or it will confirm that your return is submitted. Now you can simply, or you can, from this option, you can download a copy of filing confirmation. Okay, when you click on this button, filing confirmation will be downloaded on your PC, and it will have the contents as follows. So it will say PY periodic summary filing confirmation. This is your filing confirmation number. So in my presentation earlier, I had mentioned that the employers can track for the return that they have submitted. So with this filing confirmation number, you can track the status of your return. You can just call in to FRCS and ask any of the tax officers of what is the status of my return. So if you give in this filing confirmation number, the tax officer should be able to determine or advise you what is the status of the application or a return. It will have the TIN, the name of the employer, and if you are filing a consolidated file or a confidential, non-confidential file, it will display if it's accordingly. Now in the confirmation, it will say the details of your lodgements are as follows. Okay. However, if the information is found to be incomplete or insufficient, FRCS may amend these details. So it will have the account number. This is your PY account number that is with us. With this account number, you can make payment. If you make payment, you can refer this account number and you should be able to make payments on this account. There will be a period. The period is basically the month in which you have lodged this PY return. When was the due date and when you have lodged. So this return was due in Feb and I have lodged today, so it was late lodgement. What was the assessment figure, what was the payable figure, right? So it will display all the figures and if there are penalties and what is the net tax payable. So filing confirmation basically summarizes whatever you have submitted and at which date and what are the taxes payable for that period. Going back to the TPOS screen, so once you have already filed a return, you can always choose to go back to the home screen and file another return. So basically we have done first part of the presentation is which was lodging a payable return. Okay, now I'll try and quickly lodge a nil return. So for lodging the nil return, you will go back to the filing obligation screen, select PYE. Now you can see the status. I was mentioning on the status previously. These are all filed. There is another status which is in processing. So I've just submitted a January 2020 return. So system will take a few minutes before this status is changed to filed. So the system is currently processing this return. Okay, now if I'm trying to lodge a nil return, say I'm trying to lodge a February 2020 return as nil, I'll just click on that particular filing obligation. That February 2020 return will be displayed. I'll read on the instructions declare the instructions and click on next. The option of are you lodging a nil return? This time I'll say yes, I'm lodging a nil return, and then I have to make a selection of the reason why I am lodging a nil return. So the reasons for nil lodgement can be that the business is temporarily closed, I have not paid any wages for the particular period, or this is a management company, I do not have any employees. Okay, so I'll just say that I did not pay wages for the particular period, and then click on next. Now I've mentioned that there's a missing employee report that comes up. So since the previous lodgement I've declared that I had 4 employees, I have made a return with 4 employees. Now if I'm lodging a nil return, which means I do not have any employees. So the system will just kindly remind, or it will just give a pop-up message that the previous lodgement had this you're trying to lodge a nil return or a return with no employees. Kindly just select why this is happening. So as I said, that this might be an error by the employer that missed out. If missed out, they can always go back and change. Or if they genuinely there are no employees, they can select the reason. Since I'm saying there is no payment for the period, just say no payment for the period for this particular employees. So once you've made selection, you will just click on confirm. When you click on confirm, the summary page will be appearing. So this employer is making a late lodgement. This is a February return. It was due in end of March. This employer is making submitting this return now. So there is a late lodgement penalty charge. So you'll be able to see this late lodgement penalty in the summary and any other net tax payable for this period. You will click on next, then you'll be directed to the declaration screen. On the declaration screen, you'll have to enter the TIN of the person entering or submitting this return and select the designation and basically submit this return. Okay, so when you click on submit, same thing, a confirmation will be displayed and you can download a copy of your filing confirmation for the particular nil return. The filing confirmation for this nil return will be similar to the return that we have discussed earlier, the payable return. Okay, it will have the different dates because this is a February return and different confirmation number. Going back to my slides, the other thing that we had to discuss was so basically we have demoed a lodgement of a nil return and lodgement of payable return. Now I'll just try and amend one of the returns that I have already lodged. So suppose if I, as an employer, I have lodged one particular period's return, and after I've submitted it, I feel that I had made an error in that lodgement. So what I can do is I can simply go back to the screen, log into my filing on TPOS, okay, and click on filing obligations. Yeah. So I'll select PAYE and just select the files that are or the status. I'll say the returns which are filed. Now you can see the 2 returns that I have lodged, January and February. I have the returns are now processed. So from in processing status, the January return that I mentioned earlier, now it's changed to filed. Similarly, same thing for February return, it's changed to filed. So if I want to amend Feb return, I'll just click on that particular return. Now this return will open up, but you can see that it's not editable. Okay, so when I open that return, the returns that are already in file status, you will be able to only view that return. You will not be able to make any changes. Okay, I'm trying to click on this or click on the declaration, but it's not happening because this is not in editable mode. It's just on view mode. I'll not be able to make any changes to this return. So if I want to make or amend this return, you can see there's a amend option appearing on the bottom right hand corner of my screen. Okay, so this is the amend option. So when I select on amend, when I click on amend, there'll be a pop-up asking me for a reason for amendment. Okay, so when I click on amend, basically it means now I'm trying to change that particular return that I've already filed or already submitted to FRCS. So when I click on that amend option, the system will ask me the reason for amending the return. Now I'll need to select the relevant reason. I can say that I had missed out certain employees who were paid, but I had actually lodged a nil return, so I had missed out on the employees. Or if you have lodged a payable return, you can say that they were wrongly reported employees for that particular period, or they were incomplete wages, or there was a missing payment period for that particular return. So I'll just select one of the reasons. So I would say that there was a missing employee for this particular period and click on OK. Now as soon as I click on OK, this return is now editable. So I can make any changes to this particular return. I can say that this is now a payable return and I want the system to calculate this return for me. Okay, so the process after this is very similar to whatever I've shown you as to how to lodge a payable return. So it will be very similar to that process once you're trying to amend. Okay, and once you submit, same thing, there'll be a filing confirmation generated, and it will say that the particular return is now in review. So one thing to note is once a return is amended, it will be given to, or it will be assigned to one of the FRCS officers. It will go to the ORT team, and ORT team will be reviewing this return for the amendments made. Okay, so once a return is amended, it will be reviewed by FRCS for the amendment. And all the other options for amending after you selected amend is same thing that I have shown for lodgement of a payable return. It will be very similar. Okay, so basically the demo that I have just done, that sums up lodgement of a nil return, lodgement of a payable return, and amendment of any return that is already filed with FRCS. Now going ahead with the other presentation or the other demo that I have to provide. The other thing that we said earlier on my presentation is the employees. So the returns that I have submitted, it had employee details. Okay, so for the employees that I have already submitted, the employees can log into the portal and view that particular return. After that is been processed, they can view whatever was remitted by the employer to FRCS. Okay, so that is called the withholding statement. So it's a withholding tax statement via TPOS. So the taxpayers will be able to view the withholding tax statement from the online portal, right? Just to keep in mind, the withholding taxes that the employers or your contractors can deduct is PAYE, SRT and ECL, provisional tax, and resident interest withholding tax. So for our presentation for this PAYE session, we have just been focusing on PAYE, okay? But there are other taxes that the employer can withhold from your pay or from your payment that you'll be receiving. If you are a contractor or if you're providing contract to a company, the company can withhold provisional tax. Okay, similarly, there can be withholding taxes deducted from banks, your interest income. So all this will be that can be viewed from the withholding tax statement. But for the purpose of this webinar or this presentation, we'll just focus on PAYE, SRT and ECL. Okay. So now I'll just try and demo how the employer or the employee will log in and check his or her withholdings that were done. So I'll just simply log out from this user. I'll log into one of the users that has a PAYE that was for the user that has already been submitted with a PAYE return. And try and view the withholding tax statement. Okay, I'll just log into one of the users. So this particular login that I'm using is an employee, or it's a for MES taxpayer, and this particular employee was deducted PAYE for the 2019 returns. So to view the withholding tax statement, we'll click on request, and then we'll select statements. Now when you select statement, from this tab you can view your withholding tax statement, and also you can view the statement of tax account. Okay, so we'll select withholding tax statement. Now we'll enter the period for which this employee, this person wants to view all the taxes that were withheld from the wages. So we'll enter the, suppose I want to view from 2019 for January till December, how much PAYE was deducted or how much PAYE was remitted by my employer to FRCS. So once I've entered the date, I'll click on generate. Now when I click on generate, you can see all the details are pre-populated. Okay, these are the details for the headings on this table is the tax type. So you can have PAYE, SRT and ECL that are that have been deducted from your pay and that has been remitted. Okay, PAYE, SRT and ECL. The period, so it can be like for the selection I have done is January to December. So the periods are all showing from January till December, whatever was deducted and remitted. It will show the payer, the person or the taxpayer who has deducted your or withheld your PAYE, SRT and ECL and who had remitted. So it will have the TIN and the name of that employer for this purpose, or for this employee, this company has deducted. It will show the date of withholding. Okay, so the date on which this withholding was done, and it will also show the amount subject to withholding, and how much was actually withheld from this employee. So, for example, if you look at January, the gross wages that this person received was 2916.67, and for this employee, PYE was withheld and remitted $320.83. There was no SRT and EKL withheld and remitted. Okay, the other options on this screen is you can actually sort it. If you want to see like PYE, I mentioned that the other tax types, provisional tax and resident interest withholding tax, will also appear on the screen. Suppose if the person was also deducted with PYE, provisional tax, they can make a selection of what they want to see. So in my current demo, the person is only deducted with PYE. So the drop down is only PYE. If it was PYE PT, you'll be able to see PT and resident interest withholding tax. So we'll select PYE, and the tax types that was deducted: income tax, that's PYE, is it SRT or EKL. So if you just select PYE, all the details of PYE from January to December is appearing. Okay, you can also filter or view this statement depending on a specific tax type. So if I want to see the statement for the period of January only, so I'll just put in the start date from to 31st January 2019, and I will only see, when I click on generate, I will only see January details. Okay, so you can view, or you can make a selection of whatever you want to view on the period selection. The other option you can see is download statement. So if you want to download a copy of this withholding statement, you can simply click on download, and that file, or that a copy of that statement will be saved on the PC. So I've just clicked on download, and this file is saved. I'll just open that file. It will have the same details that we just viewed. It will have the text type, if it's PYE, SRT, nickel, the period, the employer TIN, the name of the employer, the amount of withholding, the date, and how much was withheld. Okay, this is the same thing, but this can be this is a download option, so the taxpayers can actually download and keep a copy for their records. So that's basically how a taxpayer will be able to view the withholding tax statement. Going ahead with the presentation. So we have seen how a taxpayer will be able to view the withholding tax statement on TPOS. Now, if the taxpayer finds out that there is a discrepancy in whatever was deducted and deducted from the pay and whatever they are viewing on the system in the withholding tax statement, right? They can always notify or advise FRCS of this discrepancy. Now, just to elaborate, suppose I was an employee and my employer has deducted $100 PY from my tax or from my wages, and now when I'm checking the online statement, I'm just seeing only $50. So the employer at that time can notify FRCS through the missing claim withholding or notification of discrepancy. Okay, so I'll just demo quickly on how the employee can actually submit this missing claim notification and discrepancy notification. So we'll go back to the withholding screen statement of that the taxpayer, and the selection is still January, right? So suppose this person is just reviewing the January uh, statement, and he or she finds out that there were some short deductions, right? Uh, Say they found out that they were supposed to be $400 deducted. They were deducted $400 from the pay, but this employer has only remitted $320 for PY. So they will, in this case, they will submit a notification of discrepancy, because there is a discrepancy between what was deducted and what was remitted to FRCS. So there's a discrepancy, or there's a tab just on the just beside the figure of amount of withholding. It's available to all the tabs. So simply the taxpayer can just click on that. Okay, so when you click on that, the request or the application form for notification of discrepancy in withholding tax appears or opens up. Okay, so as I mentioned, that notification of discrepancy is when the taxpayer has viewed, or they can see the amount that was supposed to be, like there's a figure in the withholding statement, right? For example, January, there was supposed to be 400 deducted, but only 320 is deducted. So in the notification of discrepancy, they will just notify that there's a short payment, or there's a short remittance from the employer to FRCS. Okay, they will type in whatever the discrepancy is. They will try and explain details. Okay, so for this one, we can say for the month of Jan, 400 was deducted SPY from wages, but only 320 appeared in my withholding statement. Right now, to provide evidence of actually what the taxpayer is saying, there is a supporting documents tab. There is an attachment field. So the taxpayer will need to provide some evidence that whatever they're saying is correct. So they have to upload a documents to provide evidence for this. So when they click on attachments, okay, they'll need to save the form first. Once the form is saved, they'll click on attachment and attach their figure or their copy of their calculation or their remittance slip, probably, if the employer has provided. So then select the file and click on add. So once the file is successfully added, they'll close. So we have briefly explained whatever was the shortfall. We have provided an attachment. You can also add notes, right? In this one, you can just provide notes, whatever you feel that you need to communicate to the tax officer, and click on declaration that the information that I'm providing is correct. Just give me some time. I think the system is trying. The internet over here is a bit slow, so it's trying to process going to the declaration screen. So once this declaration screen comes up, you will be able to see the similar declaration screen where the taxpayer has to declare or confirm that the information that they have provided is correct and click on submit. So when they click on submit, filing confirmation will be displayed to the taxpayer. I'll just try and do the application again just to show the declaration or the submission screen. So this is the declaration page that I was just explaining. So the taxpayer, since this is an individual employee, their names, the TIN number will not be pre-populated. Okay, and then they'll click on declare and submit. So when they submit, the same confirmation screen will appear. They can download a copy of the confirmation for the discrepancy that they have notified to FRCS. Okay, it will just be an acknowledgement letter saying that we acknowledge the receipt of this discrepancy, and we will notify you the outcome of the discrepancy. What happens when you submit or when you notify FRCS? It will be assigned to one of the tax officers to look at or to review whatever you are trying to claim or whatever the notification that you have submitted. We'll try and check. We'll contact your employer. If this is correct, then we'll want the employer. We will require the employer to change, amend the PAYE figure. Okay. So we will do our investigations after there is a discrepancy submitted. Similarly, if showing you on the statement of missing claim, so we'll go back to the withholding tax statement, and suppose you have entered a figure and you do not see a February claim for this particular return, right? So suppose the employer had deducted your February PAYE return and now it's June. Now when you're trying to retrieve that, you do not see your February deductions or the amount that was withheld in Feb. So in that case, we expect the taxpayers to file a missing claim notification. Okay. So there's difference between the two. A notification of discrepancy is when the particular period filing is done, or you can view that particular period statement or the amount of withholding, but there is a discrepancy, right? So previous example, there was 400 to be deducted, but I can see only 320. So in that case, I'll file a discrepancy statement. Now, if I'm not able to see the entire statement, right, or the entire withholding for that particular period, in that case, I'll file a missing claim withholding. Okay. Say for example, in this case, my January return is missing. February return is missing, and it's now August, and I do not see the February return being filed by the taxpayer or my employer. So I'll click on claim a missing withholding. When you click on that, you'll need to enter the tax type. Okay. As I mentioned earlier, this withholding statement can be viewed for PAYE, PT, and resident withholding tax. So we'll select the relevant tax type. We'll select PAYE. You'll try and enter the employer TIN. Okay. So I'll just copy one of the employer TINs. And you'll make a selection of whichever tax type or whichever type of is it SRT, ECL or PAYE that has not been limited. Okay. So when you enter the employer TIN, the name of the employer appears. You can enter the date of withholding, right? Say it was on the 15th of January or February 2019. The amount that was deducted, that was subject to withholding, say $2,000, and whatever amount was withheld, say $150 on my salary of $200, $2,000, right? You can just type in a brief description, okay? A brief description to say whatever I'm just trying to do on this missing claim. So I've said that I've also worked for the above mentioned employer in Feb 2020. PY was deducted, right? And the evidence is attached. So when you are trying to make a missing claim, you have to provide an evidence just to show that this claim is valid, right? So in this case, you can provide a remittance or your pay slip to show that there was a missing claim and this amount was paid and this amount was deducted. So I'll just attach one of the attachments for missing claim. The attachment process is same. You'll select the file from your desktop and once it's uploaded, you'll click on close and once you have reviewed whatever you have to provide as a missing claim discrepancy or missing claim notification, you'll click on submit or declaration. Similarly, the system will show the same declaration page, the same declaration screen, and it will have the same confirmation that will appear. Okay, so we've already seen a confirmation for missing claim, so I'll not go over the declaration screen and the missing claim notification. So going back to the slides. So we have basically seen in this demo, okay, the missing the statement of withholding taxes on TPOS and how a taxpayer and an employee can claim a missing withholding tax and notify for discrepancy. So once the employee submits these two, missing claim and notification with discrepancy, it will be allocated to one of the FRCS offices or tax offices. We will check the validity or the how genuine your case is, or will contact your consult with your employer, and if there is a genuine case that the employer has remitted a wrong figure or not remitted your PY figure at all, we will ask the employer to amend and relodge that return. Okay. This basically sums up on the demo that I had to do today. So I know it was a long demo. We'll now look at some of the questions that came in, and so just going over whatever we have discussed. We have lodged a PY return. We have submitted a nil PY return, a payable PY return. Now we have just viewed a withholding tax statement. If the employees are lodging the PY return, like how the employees will be able to view, and if there is a discrepancy or shortfall deductions, how the employees can actually uh, notify FRCS for the missing claim or the discrepancy. Okay, so we'll just quickly go over the questions, and we'll try and answer the questions that came in. I know my colleagues here have answered most of the questions. We'll just go over the questions and the answers again. Okay. So one of the questions that came in is we use Stan's payroll software. We have about 100 staff. Will we be able to use Stan's software file, maybe exported to Excel? Yes. In my presentation, I have mentioned that you will be able to upload a payday file from your payroll software vendor, right? And once we roll out, once PY goes live, the vendors will be changing the file format. Currently, because the FRCS requirement is that we are asking for a notepad file, right? Now, once we go live, the software vendors are supposed to change it to from notepad to Excel or a CSV file. So this change will be coming in. So you will be able to file through your software vendors. Okay. The other question is how many user ID can one employer set up? Okay. So uh, for this one, I was just trying to demo from our test environment. So I was just using only one user ID, right? I have already mentioned that there are like certain text types, the employer will be able to nominate or give an accountable person for lodging that return. Okay. So for that, so for that user ID, they will be having their different user IDs. Okay, the other question that came in is when do you think the file specification and template will be released to the employees? Okay, the file specification has been released to the vendors. As I said, when we go live, we expect the payroll vendors to change the notepad file to Excel file. So it has already been released to the vendors, but the specification to the employees will be rolled out once we get a confirmation from once we get a confirmation on the release date. So once we go live, the specifications will be rolling out accordingly to that plan. The other question that came in is, are we going to use flat file for EMS, or do we have to directly use the portal directly? So we will be uploading payday files directly, okay, from your payroll, from the portal, and you can use add employees since this is option of when we go live. Okay, so the flat files will no longer be used. Instead, we'll be using Excel file. The other question that came in is for the template, our software provider has to change the notepad field, and this is to match with the Excel file. This is to match with the template format for the upload purposes. Yes, as I mentioned earlier, the payroll vendors will be changing from the file, the report format from notepad to Excel. Okay. The other question is if the employees are casual and annual wages amount is unknown, how do you enter the total annual amount for calculating tax? Okay. Total income is not important when you are choosing to file. Choosing the option to request FRCS to provide the figures. Right. The only thing that is important is year to date. Right. I have elaborated that for the system to calculate the right tax, we need to enter the year to date. Year to date basically is whatever wages was paid for the previous periods. Say, for example, if I'm lodging a March return, my year to date will be a sum of all the gross wages, PY. Year to date for gross wages will be sum of all the wages that was paid from January, February till the payday in March. Okay, so it's not important answering the question. It's not important to know the wages for the rest of the year. It's what is important is to know the year-to-date payment and how much is paid for the current period. Another question that came is do we need to re-register for PY since we have already with TPOS online, and when do we start using the new PY? Okay, so if you're already registered as an employer, you will not need to register for PY, right? Then the information that we currently have for all the employers will be migrated. And if you already have a TPOS account, you are lodging your VAT return, FBT return, and the other returns using TPOS. You will not need to re-register for TPOS. You will be able to see your filing obligation for PY once we go live. And okay, the other question that came in is our company has employees who are paid weekly and management who are paid monthly. Therefore, which payment schedule to be used? Okay. Okay. So if you are paid management staff monthly and your normal employees are paid weekly, in one PY return you can use both monthly and weekly to file your monthly PY return. Okay. Just to keep in mind that after you have submitted or after you have uploaded 1 week's PY lodgement, you will not be submitting that return, right? That return will be saved, and after the return is after the due date or after all the 4 returns for the week has been uploaded, then only you should be able to submit, or you should be submitting the PY return. So for your question, if you have monthly employment, management staff, and weekly for your normal employees, so you can upload or enter the weekly wages details, and end of the month you can upload or enter the weekly wages detail or the monthly wages details and submit the PY returns after. There's a question just confirming that we can still use PY Regulation 6 formula to determine PY tax deducted, or we just need to enter the figure on a weekly basis on TPOS. Okay, answer that. You can also use a PY Regulation 6 formula. The new format, there is a change in the PY Regulation 6 from the 2020 to 2021 budget announcement. Okay, there's a change in the EKL rates. So the Regulation 6 formula will be updated and will be available once we go live. So yes, you can use your Regulation 6 formula. In fact, you can use Regulation 6 to cross-check your PY taxes even now if you are trying to lodge PY return in the as-is format. Okay. The other question that came in is some employees are paid weekly and some are paid monthly. How do we lodge on that application? I've just briefly answered the question. So yes, you can lodge a weekly paid employee and monthly paid employee in the same PY return. Okay, so you just need to make the selection on that screen. Is it weekly or monthly? So weekly ones you will enter all the 4 weeks. Monthly one you will just put in 1 month, and when you're submitting, you'll be submitting the PY return. Okay, there's another question that came in is for our VAT and FBT. Okay, name fields appear once we enter the TIN. Does this have something like that, or it is just date of birth versus TIN check only? Okay, I think what this question is implying that when we are lodging your VAT and FBT, once we enter the TIN, the name of the person, the name of the TIN holder appears, right? This is not happening for PY. Okay, I have mentioned that there is a validation that we check the tin with date of birth. Okay, so the name will not appear actually on this because there is a validation already happening with the name, the tin, the date of birth and the tin. Okay, so if those two match, then name is actually not an important field because you already know you're using the correct tin because your date of birth and the tin should be matching. And only when these match, then the system will validate and you will be able to go forward. Okay, we'll just take the last question. Okay, the last question is okay. The last question is FNPF deductions amount important to enter? Okay, so FNPF deduction is happening, and yes, it's important to enter the FNPF figure, but you can see that we're not actually calculating, the system is not calculating the FNPF. It's an open field, so you can use any FNPF figure. I mean, your calculated FNPF figure and enter. System is not actually validating the FNPF with the gross wages paid for that employee. Okay. So before we wrap up, I'll just hand over to Willie. Just before I wrap up and before I hand over to Willie, I'll just want to make a quick suggestion or just a clarification or a heads on to about the PAYE system. So as I've mentioned that there's a validation currently happening, okay, between the TIN and the date of birth. So something that we have noticed in the VAT return and PAYE FBT return, FBT return to be specific, said that some of the information provided or some of the information are not cleansed properly. Okay, FRCS we have been asking about information that employees to come up and update the records with the FRCS and employers to ask the employees to update the records. So whatever we have encountered in the previous for FBT is that once you enter your team, sometimes the error message comes up is the information is you need to correct contact FRCS to upload the team, right? So it's end of the month and sometimes you are stuck. That error message simply comes up because that employee has not actually updated the information with FRCS. Thus, that record is not in the live system. Okay, so in the previous, like in the previous as is or current system, there were not validations with the tin or the information that we have in our system. But going forward, going live, we will be having validations. So for the validations to work properly, all the informations need to be updated. So the employees, we just request if the employees or the people attending here, if you can ask your employees to update the information. Okay, this will be particularly more important in PY because we know that, like if you compare FBT, said there are fewer employees receiving FBT benefits, but there majority all the employees in any payroll or any employers, the employer will be submitting a PY return, all the employees, right? So we just request if you can ask your employees to update the information if they have not done so, and particularly if the date of birth. So we have said that there is a validation between date of birth and the TIN. So once we go live, and if the date of birth does not match with the TIN that we have in our system, the consequences will be that you as an employer, you will not be able to proceed with the lodgement. The system will show up error message that the TIN is incorrect or the date of birth is incorrect. So to avoid that in future, we are asking if the employers or the people attending this session, if you can ask your employees to update the information. particularly correct their details on the date of birth, so that we don't encounter the errors or the issues that we have been receiving previously for the other text types that have gone live. Okay, you can contact us. We can forward you a copy of information update. If you want to provide to employees, you can fill in the information update form and you can email it back to us. We'll update the records and we'll confirm to you. As long as the employees have updated the information, the PY matching validation should be okay. So I'll now hand over to Mr. Willy to close off this session. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you again for your participation this afternoon. We have noted all your questions and input. Most of the questions we have already addressed. If you have sent in the questions, we may be contacting you individually on some of the issues you have brought up. And please again join us this afternoon. The same session is starting at 2:30 p.m. for the second part of the PAYE presentation. You can use the same login link and password that you used for this session. But most importantly, before we end, we would like to ask all the participants today to please spare a few minutes and go to the SurveyMonkey link shown on the screen and fill in the feedback survey. Your feedback is important and it will help us improve. I'll leave the screen on for a few minutes so that you can note down or screenshot the link before we end the meeting. With these few words, thank you all once again. Stay safe and goodbye.